Do you love kombucha but hate the cost? I'm gonna teach you how to make your own kombucha. The beauty of this is that it costs a lot less. You get to make whatever flavors you want, and it's great for your gut health. Just like you have a starter for sourdough, you're gonna have a starter for your kombucha. And it's going to be called a SCOBY, which stands for Symbiotic Colony of Bacteria and Yeast. And you're also gonna have 2 ferments. So when you're making sourdough and you rise it once and then you shape it and put it in the pan and you rise it again, you're kind of gonna do the same thing with kombucha. So you're going to have a 1 gallon glass jar, and then you're also going to have other jars for your second ferment, which is what you're gonna wanna drink out of. And you can have this size individual jar that you can buy on Amazon. You can get a bigger one, and in a pinch, you can always use a mason jar. Your second ferment jar needs to be able to have a airtight seal on it, whereas your first ferment jar, you're actually just gonna put a towel over this. So this SCOBY, listen, it totally reminds me of a placenta. So this is what it looks like. And every time you make a new batch, it's going to add another layer. The bacteria is gonna continue to grow. So you can, if you have one and you wanna share with a friend, you're just gonna cut this in half or cut it in quarters, however many times you need to split it. And you're also gonna take your SCOBY out, and you're also gonna take about a cup of the water out. And this is gonna be your starter for your next batch. So again, think sourdough, think yogurt. If you've ever made yogurt, you need that bacteria to grow the next batch, right? So this now is going to be ready to make that final batch for the second ferment. And I'm gonna show you in a minute how to replenish and make this next first batch. Now, when you are making your second ferment, you need to add some sort of sugar. Both ferments need sugar for the bacteria to grow. The first ferment is going to literally be sugar and black tea. The second ferment is where you get to flavor your kombucha. Now this one that I made last week is cherry vanilla. It's delicious. This week I'm gonna make peach. So I have here canned peaches, and I'm gonna blend these up, and you can use any form of sugar that you want, any form of fruit. I like to use the fruit that I have. You can use frozen fruit that you thaw and blend up. You can use mango nectar. You can buy that in the jug at Costco. That's a really great thing to use. So I'm gonna blend this up here quick. Now, I have fruit puree, and this is what you're looking for that second ferment to flavor your kombucha and to give it a sugar source so that bacteria that's in the kombucha can continue to grow and that kombucha can continue to ferment. Now, I also like to add a little bit of vanilla just for flavoring. You can totally add some essential oils. I have wild orange or grapefruit or peppermint. Lots of really great options. Only use doTERRA if you're using essential oils in your kombucha because they're gonna be safe and therapeutic for you. Now, these are not a sugar source, these are a flavoring source. So make sure that you're adding some sort of fruit, something that has sugar in it, to be able to give that kombucha something to feed off of. So again, right, when you're making sourdough, you're giving it flour to eat. With kombucha, you're giving it fruit. So what I'm going to do is I am going to pour my purees into my jars, and I gotta say, I'm not scientific about the measuring here. I just take whatever jars I have and I divvy it out so all my puree is gone. Usually I will use, well, it's definitely less than a quart in my puree or my nectar, whatever I'm looking at. Usually probably about a pint would be my guess as to how much I use. And again, your first ferment is a gallon. You've taken a cup out, so you need to take that into consideration when you are figuring out how much room you need for or how many jars you need for your second ferment. Now, I say that a lot, don't I? No. All right, we are going to take our tea, and I'll tell you, this glass jar is awesome. It's from Menards. It was probably 10 bucks. It doesn't pour well. So I am going to take some of my tea, and I'm gonna teach you how to make this in just a minute. And I pour it in something that makes it a whole lot easier to pour. And I've got these silicone funnels from, I think, Pampered Chef back in the day. And these are really imperative if you are going to use narrow mouth jars. Now, I will tell you that my favorite jars are these jars. These you can get 8 maybe off of Amazon, and they're maybe $30. So it felt like an investment to me in the beginning, but I love sitting down and having lunch and just having an individual, see what happens when I talk? All right, let's see if we can transfer this. Haha, not bad, Calhoun. It just feels, I don't know if classy is the word, but kombucha really helps in digestion, and it really is nice just to have an individual sized portion to be able to have with a meal or share with a friend. I feel like my teenagers are more likely to eat or drink kombucha when it looks normal or intentional, maybe is the word. All right, so what you're gonna do with this second ferment, that's a lot, and that's probably going to be a little too much. So there we go. Now, this second ferment is going to go in the cabinet for 1 week. And that can be a pantry, that can be a basement. I just put it into my corner cabinet here. But what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna seal them. I like these jars because they come with a self-sealing mechanism right on them. And my concern with these when I first got them was that they were not gonna clean well. I am shocked. I can throw these right in the dishwasher and they clean really, really easily. So that's a definite win. If you're doing a mason jar, then just throw a ring and a lid on it. So after 1 week in the cabinet, they should be done fermenting and you can throw them right in your fridge. Depending on the temperature of your house, which for me is the season, so obviously warmer in the summer, right? And also depending on the sugar content in the fruit that you've added to your kombucha, this could ferment faster or slower. So I like to do 2 things after a week. I like to test the lid and just see how much pressure is under this cap. I have absolutely had these turn into a rocket and you open them up and they explode. That happens if I let them ferment too long. If you open it up and you realize, gosh, there's really not a lot of pressure behind there, there's not the carbonation that you like, whether you like it very fizzy or less fizzy, whether you like it quite acidic or not, that's gonna kind of dictate. So kombucha is your batch is gonna be different every time, which is not a bad thing, I don't think. So then after it's been in the cabinet for a week, you're gonna move it to your fridge for 2 reasons. 1, cold kombucha tastes better, and number 2, because you want the fermentation process to slow down so that you don't get so much pressure that they do explode when you open them up. So 2 things about your finished product. Number 1, you're going to have some sediment at the bottom, and this is literally the solids from your fruit. You can mix this, you can filter this, whatever you want to do, whatever you prefer is fine. I don't ever filter this out, I just drink it. The other thing I want you to see is there is a baby SCOBY at the top. Ooh, that's a good angle. You see that? There's a baby SCOBY at the top. And so that's kind of a gelatinous bacteria colony, maybe is the word. It's a bacterial colony that's growing in your individual bottle. Now, this is health gold. That bacteria is so good for your GI tract, and I would encourage you to drink it. My teenagers totally make a daring game out of it with their friends. But it's so good for you. So once again, you can filter that out. If you don't want to, you can strain it out. I would encourage you to maybe work up to just down the hatch. When I first started this, I was like, I'm not doing that. But now I'm there. Now, let's talk about your first ferment then. How are you gonna remake your original batch of kombucha? So kombucha is fermented black tea. And so you're gonna have 8 tea bags of black tea. Now, don't use green tea, don't use white tea, don't use herbal tea, don't use flavored tea. I know you're gonna wanna feel like you can do it. Don't do it. So we're going to use 8 tea bags. I would also recommend that you get organic black tea. I have a kettle of water that's boiling on the stove, and we're gonna put our tea bags right on the edge, and now it's really boiling. And what I like to do is take a rubber band and hold the tea bags in the jar like that with my tea bags and my rubber band. And you need then a cup of sugar. So my cup measure is wet. I have organic, it's not a fine gauge salt. It's kind of a coarse salt, sugar. And it's really important that this gets dissolved. So we're gonna add boiling filtered water to this. And this is gonna do 2 things. It's going to brew the tea and it's going to dissolve the sugar. So I put enough boiling water in here until the tea bags are covered. Once the tea bags are covered, I stop. Now, this tea can brew for 10 minutes, or there have been times when I have put this together and I have left the house and I have come back and it's been an hour or 2 and all of that is just fine. What you wanna do is, your goal is to brew the tea and your goal is to dissolve the sugar. I find that even if this sits for a good 15 or 20 minutes, I have to stir the sugar to get it to dissolve. So a little bit of stirring is not a bad idea. If you were to put the SCOBY, the kombucha placenta, to this right now, or even when it's just too hot, it'll kill the bacteria. So you need to wait until this is really, really, really cooled down in order to put the SCOBY back in. You can take the tea bags out after 10 minutes or any time after, but you have to wait until the water is cool to put your SCOBY back in. Fill it to the rest of the way with nice, cool, filtered water. And then, because this is going to ferment for a week, you just wanna put a towel over it. I also use the rubber band to secure my towel on there. And so you wanna put your towel over there and your rubber band, and you wanna put it in the cabinet and let it sit for a week. So at any given time, ideally, you have this and a batch of your second ferment in your cabinet, and you have this in your fridge. Now, what if you go on vacation, or what if time gets away from you? I have been there. I have let this sit in my cabinet for, oh my gosh, maybe even a month before. And I haven't killed it yet. It's done just fine. I have shared my SCOBY with people, so I have cut it and shared it, and it just easily grows back. And I have actually left bottles of the completed ones in my fridge for well over a week, 2 weeks before as well. I think what you maybe don't want to do is leave sealed bottles of fermenting kombucha with the fruit in it in your cabinet for more than a week. Things will just keep going until they explode. You can have glass jars explode. I've never had that happen, but I can only imagine the danger and the mess that that would make. So this uncovered, fine for a while. This in your fridge, fine for a while. Sealed in your cabinet, not fine for a while. Limit this to a week and then start checking it. So I hope this inspires you to inexpensively make your own good for your gut, excellent for your digestion kombucha.